It's the International Soccer Preview. We are Soccerphiles Canada. Welcome to Series 31, looking at the players of the 2025 African Cup. This episode is looking at the players of Tanzania. Part 1, Candidates. Here we go. Hello and welcome to the International Soccer Preview by Soccerphiles Canada. I'm Kevin and this is Series 31 on the players of the 2025 African Cup. This episode covers Tanzania's players. To move into Section 3 and welcome to new listeners to Section 3 here because we're using this part as a short version on Part 1 of Tanzania's players. So in the full version, we did introduce the candidates and their likelihood of making the final squad, which we'll review here. And if you want more information, such as the reasons for our predictions or some career information on these players, that's what we did in the full version of the mediacast. We're not concerning ourselves with predicting starters at this point. That's what we'll do in Part 2. But what we are doing here is looking at the candidates and their likelihood of making the squad. So let's go up to the top of the list here and look at the manager. Outgoing manager Adel Amrouche left after the last African Cup in January 2024, and Hemed Morocco is now the manager and has been over the period. For goalkeepers, we have a definite candidate in Yaqub Suleiman Ali, and a likely candidate in Hussein Masalanga, and then two possible candidates, Zuberi Foba and Anthony Rampemba. Now, if you're looking at the YouTube version of this, you'll see all of those names are in light grey, and all of the names of the possible but unlikely candidates and seemingly off the squad candidates, almost all of those are in black. Black means they've been through a tournament. Light grey means they haven't. And so what we have here is basically an overhaul of the keepers. I should mention Aisha Manula at the possible but unlikely level, because I would not be surprised if he came back in. But yeah, a real changing of the guard here. Anyway, let's move on to central defenders. And here we have a definite candidate in Ibrahim Hamad and two likely candidates, Bakari Mwamneto and Dixon Job, and then two possible candidates, Lamek Lawi and Wilson Nangu. Those are the candidates. They probably need a bit more bulk on the bench there. Anyway, we talked about that in Part 2, or in Section 2, so we won't repeat it here. Let's go to left backs instead, where we only have two definite candidates, Mohamed Hussein, or Shabalala as he's sometimes called, and Pascal Msindo. Those are the only two over here because we're not mentioning possible but unlikely or seemingly off the squad players. For right backs, we actually have a couple of central defenders coming into the position. Lusajo Mwekenda is a definite candidate, and he's a centre back. Shomari Kapombe at the likely level is coded as a right back. And then our first candidate at the possible level, Miano van den Bos, a central defender. And the other one, Israel Mwenda, or sometimes called Patrick Mwenda, coded as a right back. Those are the candidates over there. And we move on up to the midfield with defensive midfielders. We can do defensive and central midfielders together because they overlap quite a bit. But coded as defensive midfielders is Novatus Miroshi, a likely candidate. And then a possible candidate in Yusuf Kagoma and Khalid Habibu. Those coded as central midfielders, we have a definite candidate in Mudathir Yaya Abbas, And that's it. We have 4 players seemingly off the squad. And again, we do seem to need a bit more population here. So wouldn't be surprised to see some of those players coming back in or some new players. Meanwhile, we move upfield to left attackers. We have no definite candidate here, but we have Abdul Hamisi Suleiman as a likely candidate, and then a possible candidate Kibu Dennis, Idi Nado, and Edmund Godfrey John, all 3 of those possible candidates. On the right side, no candidates at the definite level, but Simon Msuva at the likely level, and then 2 possible candidates in Tarin Alarkia and Often Chikola. For central attackers, well, coded as we're going to recode him as a central attacker and attacking midfielder. Faisal Saloom, or Faye Toto, is a definite candidate, although he does play in various positions, sometimes in the central midfield, sometimes as a left attacker. But when they use the central attacker position in a 4-2-3-1 formation, it'll be him. Beyond him, we have 2 possible candidates, Charles Mbomwa and Maurice Abraham. And then we go to the forwards, where we have no definite candidate here, but Clement Mzizi, a likely candidate, and Mwana Samata, also likely, but under an injury concern, which we'll cover soon. And then we have 4 possible candidates, Kelvin Pius John, Selemani Mwalimu, Yahya Zaid Omari, and Paul Peter Kasunda, all 4 of those possible candidates. Okay, that is our review of the candidates. Let's move on to big names who are off the squad. And we begin with goalkeeper Aishi Manula. He was the starter in the last African Cup. But last appeared in, wasn't selected for the last 6 matches. A bit of a surprise to us there. But he's a veteran with 68 caps since 2015, and it's only 30 years old. So we really wouldn't be surprised if he was brought back in. We're most surprised that he actually is off the squad. The new goalkeeper's very inexperienced there. Next we have, we'll call him defensive midfielder Himid Mao, or Himid Mao Makami, and he last played in October of 2024, but also a veteran with 81 caps and 2 goals, 33 years old. Again, I'd be a bit surprised if he was left off the squad for this cup. Finally, we have Zamiru Yassin. He is a central midfielder, 49 caps since 2000. And like the 2 above him, part of the squad for the African Cup in 2023. In Yassin's case, though, that was his last appearance for the team. So maybe a bit more surprising if he comes back. Moving on to injuries, we only had 1 injury concern. Actually, just checked for an update on that. And I'll tell you about it. It's Bwana Samata, and I should have said he's sometimes called Ali Samata, and so a big name forward for them. He was out with a muscle injury for the last October international, but he did recover from that. Then he was out with a dead leg since late October with an unknown return date. But I just checked and found that he did play for his club on November 30th. We're doing this media cast on December 2nd here. So we can put Mbwani Samata as recovered from injury there, and he no longer is tagged on the main source that I use for this. So good. So in that case, it means no injury concerns that we know of for Tanzania, and we can move on to closing thoughts. I do have some closing thoughts on Tanzania. Generally, the only chance that smaller teams get in competitions like this is when they have a very tight squad that's used to playing together. And that's why some countries like Equatorial Guinea and Cape Verde have done well. It's kind of an advantage they hold over star-studded teams where the managers feel obliged to meet the expectations of players who expect field time. Unfortunately, though, Tanzania have chopped and changed the lineup way more than even any big squad. And whatever the reason they do that for, it's been hard for us to associate a player with any given position because it's often a different player in that position. And so I'm worried that the Tanzania squad kind of lack familiarity in playing with each other. So maybe there's a method to things like putting out an experimental squad for their last World Cup qualifier, but it's a bit baffling to us and doesn't seem to contribute towards building a stable and cohesive squad there. Okay, now I have that off my chest, perhaps because I was a bit frustrated in preparing this mediacast and summarizing the positions, but there, I feel a whole lot better about things now, and we can move on to our last order of business, previewing part 2. So we're gonna let you know when the squad lists come out who made the preliminary squad and the final squad, and we'll highlight any notable non-selections and any surprise inclusions and new players. We'll also give an update on injuries if there's more to talk about there. And finally, my favorite part of part 2 is predicting the starters. So we will have a couple of games to base those predictions on that are going to be played between the end of the October games and the beginning of the Cup. So that'll help us to predict the starters. Otherwise, that is it for part 1 here on Tanzania's players, and we hope you join us for part 2. We would like to thank Pixabay and Cold Fingers for the wonderful music used in this mediacast. The title of the piece is Eid Mubarak.